The council room was huge. It stretched so far that Captain Jake Morrison could barely see the other end. Thousands of alien beings filled the space, each one different from the next. Some looked like walking crystals. Others resembled giant insects. A few were just floating clouds of gas held together by energy fields. They all had one thing in common. They were here to talk, not fight. Jake sat with his team in a small section marked for Earth. There were only 5 humans in the entire chamber. Next to Jake sat Dr. Lisa Hoffman. She knew more about alien biology than anyone else on Earth. Commander Alex Porter sat on his other side, reviewing data on a small tablet. Ambassador Claire Davis and Henry Chang completed their small group. The room buzzed with voices. Translation devices turned thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. It sounded like a strange chorus of beeps, clicks, and melodic tones all blending together. A tall, crystalline being stood up. His name was Quirishar, and he came from a species called the Valorians. They had been the first aliens to welcome humans into the galactic community 3 years ago. Quirishar considered himself a teacher to the humans. He wanted to help them learn the ways of the council. "The motion is before us," Quirishar announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The Kresh Empire has crossed into Hellion territory. We must decide what to do about this violation." The debate began. It moved slowly, carefully. Every species wanted to speak. Every opinion had to be heard. This was how the council worked. No rushing, no anger. Just calm discussion until everyone agreed. The Kresh were large beings, almost like Earth's elephants but with 6 legs. They looked dangerous, but they only ate plants. Their representative stood and apologized for the boundary crossing. He explained it was a cultural misunderstanding. The Kresh had different ideas about territory than other species. The Helians looked like giant rabbits that walked on 2 legs. Their representative spoke nervously about feeling unsafe. They wanted promises that it would never happen again. They wanted the council to guarantee their security. Jake watched it all with a neutral expression. He had learned to keep his face blank during these meetings. Humans were still new here. They were on probation. The council had let them join, but with conditions. Earth had to prove they could be peaceful. They had to show they were not the violent species their history suggested. Lisa leaned close to Jake. "This is going to take hours," she whispered. "Probably days," Jake whispered back. "Remember the last border dispute? They talked for 3 weeks. And nothing really changed. That's not the point. The point is, everyone gets to talk. Everyone feels heard. That's how they keep peace." Lisa nodded but said nothing more. She understood. The council species had evolved differently than humans. Most of them came from prey animals, creatures that ran from danger instead of fighting it. Over millions of years, these species had learned to talk their way out of problems. Fighting was their last option, not their first. Humans were different. Earth was what the aliens called a death world. Everything on Earth was dangerous. The plants could poison you. The animals could kill you. Even the weather could end your life. Humans had evolved as hunters. They chased their food across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. They worked in groups to bring down creatures much larger than themselves. They made weapons and tools. They planned and strategized. But the council did not trust predators. In their experience, predator species were violent and aggressive. They started wars. They conquered and destroyed. So when humanity had reached the stars and met the council, they had to make a choice: show their true nature and risk being rejected, or hide it and gain acceptance. They chose to hide it. For 3 years, humans had played the role of peaceful explorers. They sent only small ships into council space. They agreed to every rule and restriction. They attended endless meetings and debates. They smiled and nodded and never showed their teeth. "Captain Morrison," Quirishar called out, "does Earth have an opinion on this matter?" Jake stood up smoothly. He had practiced this movement 1,000 times. Not too fast, which might seem aggressive. Not too slow, which might seem weak. Just right. "The council's wisdom is greater than ours," Jake said carefully. "We are still learning your ways. Whatever decision promotes peace and understanding has our support. Several aliens made gestures of approval. The Valorians hummed in harmony. The Helians twitched their long ears in agreement. Jake had said exactly what they wanted to hear. He sat back down. Lisa gave him a small nod. Another successful performance. What none of them knew was that everything was about to change. At that exact moment, far away in an uncharted region of space, a Kresh mining ship was making a discovery. They had found something that should not exist. A passage through what the Council called the Great Barrier. The barrier was an energy field that surrounded Council space. It had been there for thousands of years, separating the peaceful Council from the dangerous regions beyond. Beyond the barrier lived species that the Council feared. Species that never learned to talk instead of fight. Species that saw the universe as something to conquer. The Kresh miners sent their discovery back to their home world. The message was routine, just standard exploration data. They had no idea what they had done. They had no idea that their discovery had already been found by someone else, someone who had been looking for a way through the barrier for a very long time. The Council continued their debate. They discussed territorial boundaries and cultural differences. They proposed solutions and compromises. It was all very civilized. Jake checked the time. The meeting had been going for 4 hours. They would probably break for a meal soon. Then they would come back and talk for another 4 hours. Maybe by the end of the week they would vote on something. His communicator buzzed quietly. It was a message from Earth. He glanced at it quickly, expecting routine updates. His blood went cold. The message was coded. Only 5 people in the entire human delegation could read it. It said, "Barrier breach detected. Unknown fleet entering Council space. Composition suggests Zalroth origin. Monitor situation. Await instructions." Jake's expression did not change. He had trained for years to control his reactions. But inside, his mind was racing. The Zalroth. He had read the classified reports about them. Every human in the diplomatic corps had. The Zalroth were the nightmare that the Council never talked about in public. They were pure predators. Not like humans who had learned to be civilized. The Zalroth had never learned that lesson. They lived only to hunt and conquer. Their empire existed beyond the barrier, always pushing at the edges, always looking for a way through. And now they had found one. Jake forced himself to breathe normally. He glanced at his team. Lisa had received the same message. Her face was pale, but she kept her composure. Alex was reading his tablet with extra focus, probably reviewing military protocols. Claire and Henry looked concerned but calm. The Council continued their debate, unaware that their carefully maintained peace was about to shatter. They talked about minor boundary disputes while an invasion fleet was already crossing into their space. They discussed diplomatic solutions while 3,000 warships moved toward their worlds. Jake waited. He could not interrupt the Council without proof. He could not cause panic based on a single message. But he also could not sit here doing nothing while civilians were about to die. His communicator buzzed again. Another coded message. Outer Rim colonies under attack. 15 billion casualties estimated in first hour. Council Defense Fleet responding. Request human assistance authorized. 15 billion dead. In 1 hour. Jake stood up. This time he did not move slowly or carefully. He moved like a human, quick and decisive. "Arch-Counselor Vemoth," he said loudly. The chamber fell silent. Interrupting a speaker was a serious breach of protocol. "I apologize for the interruption, but Earth has received urgent information that requires immediate Council attention." Vemoth was an ancient being. His species had founded the Council millennia ago. He looked at Jake with dozens of eyes, each one showing surprise and concern. "This is highly irregular, Captain Morrison," Vemoth said slowly. "What information? Could be so urgent that it cannot wait for the proper channels?" Jake chose his words carefully. "Information about the Great Barrier and a possible breach." The chamber erupted. Thousands of aliens began talking at once. Panic spread like wildfire. The Great Barrier was their protection, their safety. The idea that it might be breached terrified them more than anything else. Weymouth raised several tentacles, calling for silence. "Captain Morrison, please explain." Before Jake could speak, every communicator in the chamber activated simultaneously. The Council's emergency alert system had finally caught up with the situation. Data flooded into the chamber. Images of destroyed colonies, casualty reports, ship movements, and confirmation of what Jake already knew. The Zalroth had come. The nightmare was real, and the Council had no idea how to stop it. The Council chamber had never been so quiet. Thousands of beings stared at the tactical displays floating in the air. Red markers showed the Zalroth fleet. Blue markers showed Council colonies. As everyone watched, more and more blue markers turned gray. Gray meant destroyed. Gray meant everyone there was dead. Arch-Counselor Weymouth absorbed the information through his many sensory organs. His feeding tentacles went completely rigid. Lisa had read about his species. That particular reaction meant extreme fear. "How is this possible?" Weymouth asked. His voice shook. "The Great Barrier has held for 2,000 years. Nothing should be able to cross it." A Kresh representative stood up. His massive body trembled. "Our mining ship found a weak point in the barrier 3 days ago. We reported it through standard channels. The information was supposed to go to the Council's science division. It never arrived," Weymouth said quietly. "Or if it did, it came too late. The Zalroth must have been watching the barrier for years. They found the weak point before we could reinforce it." Another display appeared. It showed the Zalroth fleet in detail. 3,000 warships, each one built for destruction. They moved in perfect formation like a school of predatory fish. Behind them, more ships appeared. Support vessels, troop carriers, colony destroyers. "They are not just attacking," Quirishar said. His crystalline body had lost its usual glow. "They are invading. They plan to stay." "How many casualties?" someone asked from across the chamber. Weymouth checked the data again. 15 billion confirmed dead. The Outer Rim colonies had no warning. The Zalroth destroyed them from orbit. They did not even try to negotiate or make demands. "Then what do they want?" a Hellion representative asked. "Everything," Jake said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "They want your territory, your resources, your worlds. The Zalroth do not negotiate. They do not compromise. They are pure predators who see you as prey." "You seem to know much about them, Captain Morrison," Weymouth observed. "Earth has studied every major species in the galaxy, even the ones beyond the barrier. We like to know what's out there in the dark. And what do your studies tell you about the Zalroth?" Jake hesitated. He did not want to cause more panic. But they needed to know the truth. They are what happens when a predator species never learns to control its nature. They evolved on a death world like Earth. But unlike humans, they never developed empathy, never learned cooperation beyond hunting packs. They are efficient killers, and that is all they will ever be. Lisa added, "Their culture has no concept of peace, only strength and weakness. They will keep attacking until they are stopped or until there is nothing left to attack. Then we must evacuate," someone suggested. "Save who we can and retreat to the core worlds, and abandon 15% of Council territory." Another voice protested. Better than losing everything, the argument started again. Dozens of species all trying to talk at once, all proposing different solutions: evacuation, negotiation, defensive positions. None of them suggesting the one thing that might actually work: fighting back. Commander Alex Porter leaned close to Jake. "They are not going to mount a real defense, are they?" "No," Jake said quietly. "Look at them. They are terrified. Most of these species have not fought a real war in thousands of years. They have peacekeeping forces, but not armies. Police ships, but not warships. So what do they have? About 200 defense vessels spread across Council space. Most of them are designed to stop pirates and smugglers, not invasion fleets. That's nothing against 3,000 Zalroth warships." "I know." Lisa was listening to the Council debate with growing frustration. They are going to talk until it is too late. Until the Zalroth are at their doorstep. "That's their nature," Jake said. "They evolved to avoid conflict. When danger comes, their instinct is to run or hide, not fight. So we are just going to sit here and let them die?" Jake looked at his team. All of them had the same expression, the same thought. They had spent 3 years pretending to be something they were not. 3 years acting like peaceful explorers. 3 years hiding their true nature. Maybe it was time to stop pretending. How long until the Zalroth reached the core worlds? Jake called out. The chamber quieted. At their current speed, they will arrive in 6 days, Vemoth answered. Our defense fleet is mobilizing, but the projections are not favorable. What do the projections show? Complete defeat within 48 hours of engagement. The Zelroth ships are more advanced than ours, more heavily armed, and they have actual combat experience. So you are going to evacuate? It seems to be our only option. We will save who we can and establish new defensive lines deeper in Council space. And when the Zelroth break through those lines, Vemoth's tentacles drooped. Then we retreat again, until we run out of space to retreat to. Jake stood up. There is another option. We are open to suggestions, Captain Morrison. Let us help. Earth wants to assist in the defense. A few council members made sounds that the translators interpreted as polite gratitude, but most seemed confused. What could 5 humans and 7 small ships possibly do against 3,000 Zelroth warships? We appreciate the offer, Vemoth said gently, but humanity does not have the military resources to make a difference here. Your 7 ships are diplomatic vessels, not warships. You are right, Jake agreed. The 7 ships here are diplomatic vessels, but we have more ships at home. How many more? Enough to make a difference. Captain Morrison, please be specific. How many additional ships can Earth provide? Jake glanced at his team one more time. This was it. The moment where they revealed the truth. Where they stopped pretending. Once he said the words, there would be no going back. I need to make a call first. With your permission, I would like to open a direct channel to Earth's military command. Vemoth gestured approval. The Council authorizes direct communication. Jake pulled out his communicator and entered a series of codes. The encryption was military grade. Only the highest levels of Earth's government could access this channel. After a moment, a new hologram appeared in the Council chamber. Fleet Admiral Karen Price stood in what looked like a military command center. Behind her, dozens of officers worked at various stations. Display screens showed star charts and ship positions. Captain Morrison, Karen said. Her voice was crisp and professional. I have been monitoring the situation. Earth's cabinet has granted emergency authorization. We are ready to proceed with Operation Homecoming. Confirmed, Admiral. The Council has requested our assistance. What is our current deployment capability? All fleets are ready for immediate deployment. We can begin jump sequences within the hour. All fleets? Vemoth interrupted. How many ships are you talking about? Karen looked directly at the Arch-Counselor. Fleet Admiral Karen Price, Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Initiative. To answer your question, we are talking about every combat-capable vessel Earth has constructed in the last 3 years. Which is how many? Preliminary count shows 42,000 ships in the first wave. Another 18,000 in the second wave will be ready within 72 hours. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. 60,000 ships. Earth had 60,000 warships, and nobody had known. Querisher turned to Jake. His crystalline form seemed to flicker with shock. You told us you had achieved peace. You said Earth had moved beyond war. You sat here for 3 years acting like peaceful explorers. We did not lie, Jake said calmly. Earth has achieved peace. We have not fought a war with each other in over 50 years. The 7 ships we sent to Council space were exactly what we said they were. Diplomatic vessels. Then what are these other ships? Insurance. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. That is an old human saying. We hoped the galaxy would be peaceful. We hoped we would never need weapons. But we planned for the possibility that we might. Lisa spoke up. Captain Morrison is telling the truth. We wanted to be peaceful. We did everything you asked. We followed your rules. We adopted your customs. But we never forgot what we were, what we came from. And what are you? Vemoth asked quietly. Survivors from a death world. Predators who learned to cooperate. We are the species that hunted mammoths to extinction with nothing but wooden spears. We are the species that conquered our entire planet despite being weaker and slower than most of the animals we faced. We are very good at killing things. And we built an entire civilization trying to be better than that. Trying to be more than just killers, Alex added. You wanted us peaceful, so we were peaceful. But you should have asked what we would do if something worse came along. Karen's hologram grew larger. Arch-Counselor, we do not have time for lengthy debates. The Zelroth are destroying your colonies right now. Every hour we delay means millions more dead. I need authorization to bring my fleets through Council space and engage the enemy. And I need that authorization now. Vemoth looked around the chamber. Every alien present was staring at him. waiting for his decision. Let the humans help and risk unleashing something potentially as dangerous as the Zalroth, or refuse and watch their civilization burn. What are your terms? Vemoth asked. No terms. No payment. No trade agreements. You need help. We can provide it. That is enough. And after the Zalroth are defeated, what will Earth want then? To go back to being peaceful explorers, to keep pretending we are not what we are, unless something else comes along that needs K. The first human ships started arriving 12 hours later. They came through jump points in perfect formation. Cruisers the size of small moons emerged from the fabric of space itself. Behind them came destroyers, then frigates, then the carriers. The carriers were huge. Each one held thousands of smaller fighter craft. Council observers watched from their stations and could not believe what they were seeing. The ships kept coming, and coming, and coming. Quirishar stood in the observation deck of the council station. Jake had joined him there. The Valorian stared out at the growing fleet with something close to horror in his crystalline eyes. How long have you been building these? Quirishar asked. Since the day we learned we were not alone in the universe, Jake answered honestly. Our first contact was peaceful. Your people greeted us with friendship, but Earth's leaders remembered our own history. We remembered what happened when a more advanced civilization met a less advanced one. It usually did not end well for the weaker group, so you built an armada. We built a deterrent. We built a way to defend ourselves if first contact had gone differently. If the galaxy had turned out to be hostile instead of friendly. We were friendly, I know, and we are grateful for that. But we could not take the risk. We had to be ready. More ships appeared. These were different, larger, darker. They moved with a kind of terrible grace like sharks gliding through water. Weapons bristled from every surface. What are those? Quirishar asked. Dreadnoughts, our heaviest warships. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. And you brought them here to protect us. Yes. Or to conquer us. Jake turned to face the Valorian directly. If we wanted to conquer you, we would have done it 3 years ago. We could have come through your space with this fleet and taken everything before you knew what was happening. We did not do that. We came in peace. We asked to join your council. We followed your rules. While building weapons in secret, not in secret, just out of sight. We never lied about Earth's military capabilities. You just never asked the right questions. A new ship emerged from jump space. It was even larger than the dreadnoughts. The thing was massive, stretching for miles in every direction. Its hull was covered in armor plating. Gun batteries dotted its surface like metal thorns. That is a command ship, Jake explained. Admiral Price will be aboard. She will coordinate the battle from there. Battle, Quirishar repeated. We do not think in terms of battles. We think in terms of discussions and compromises. I know. That is why you need us. A shuttle launched from the command ship and headed toward the council station. Within an hour, Admiral Karen Price had arrived in the council chamber. She wore a military uniform that looked practical and functional. No decorations. No unnecessary details. Just efficiency. She was a stern woman with gray-streaked hair tied back tightly. Her eyes were sharp and calculating. When she walked, it was with the confidence of someone who had seen combat. Real combat, the kind that left scars. Arch-Counselor Vemoth, Karen said, saluting in the human style. I am Fleet Admiral Karen Price. My fleets are in position. We are ready to engage the enemy. But first I need intelligence. Everything you know about the Zalroth. Their tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses. Weaknesses. Vemoth seemed confused by the word. We do not know of any weaknesses. The Zalroth have always been unbeatable. That is why we built the barrier. Nothing is unbeatable. Everything has weaknesses. We just need to find them. A tactical display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the Zalroth fleet's current position and movement patterns. Karen studied it for several minutes without speaking. Her command staff, which had accompanied her, took notes and ran calculations. They move in hunting pack formations, Karen observed. Three-dimensional spread with overlapping fields of fire. Aggressive but not reckless. They are experienced warriors. They have been fighting for thousands of years, Vemoth confirmed. Their entire civilization is built around conquest. Good. That means they think like predators. And I know how predators think. You are predators too, Quirishar said quietly. It was not a question. Yes. Earth is a death world. Nearly everything on our planet evolved to either kill or avoid being killed. Humans evolved as pursuit predators. We hunted by chasing our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then we killed it. Simple, efficient, brutal. Several council members made distressed sounds. The translators struggled to convey their feelings of fear and discomfort. But we also evolved something the Zalroth did not, Karen continued. Intelligence, creativity, the ability to adapt. We learned that working together was better than working alone. We learned to use tools. We learned to plan ahead. Most importantly, we learned that there are better ways to live than constant warfare. Yet you built 60,000 warships, Vemoth pointed out. Because peace is a choice, not a weakness. We choose peace when we can, but we never forget how to fight. The Zalroth only know how to fight. They never learned the other option. That is their weakness. Karen pulled up more tactical data. Their formations are efficient for attack, but vulnerable to counterattack. They rely on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. They expect their enemies to run, to scatter, to panic. That is exactly what we were planning to do, Vemoth admitted. I know, but we are not going to do that. We are going to do something the Zalroth have probably never encountered before. We are going to fight back, hard, and we are going to make them regret crossing that barrier. Lisa had been watching the exchange quietly. Now she spoke up. Admiral, the council species are concerned. They have seen what humans can do when we stop being peaceful. They are afraid of us now. Karen nodded. I understand. Captain Morrison, please explain to the council what Operation Homecoming means. Jake stood. Homecoming is Earth's defensive protocol. When we joined the council, we sent a small diplomatic mission, but we always planned for the possibility that we might need military support. So we kept most of our fleet at home, ready to respond if needed, ready to come home if our diplomatic mission encountered danger. But this is not your home, Quirisher said. This is our space, our worlds. True, but you are our allies now. When you accepted Earth into the council, you became part of our community. And humans protect their community. It is one of our oldest instincts. We gather in groups for mutual defense. Your danger becomes our danger. Your enemies become our enemies. That is a very aggressive way of thinking. Maybe. But it is also what kept humans alive on Earth. We survived because we worked together, because we protected each other. Because when something threatened the group, the entire group responded. Karen brought up a new display. Here is the engagement plan. The Zalroth fleet is currently in Sector 7, moving toward the core worlds. They have destroyed 3 more colonies in the last 6 hours. We will meet them at the Corridor of Stars, where space is more confined. That will limit their ability to spread out. You want to fight them in a narrow passage? Vemoth asked. That seems dangerous. It is. But it also prevents them from using their numerical advantage. In a confined space, they cannot surround us. They have to come at us in waves. And we can break those waves with what? They still outnumber you. Numbers are not everything. We have better tactics, better training, and most importantly, we have surprise. The Zalroth think they are hunting prey. They do not know they are about to encounter another predator. One of Karen's officers stepped forward. He was a younger man named Lieutenant Commander Paul Jenkins. Admiral, the fleet is reporting ready status. All ships are armed and in position. We are waiting for your order. Tell them to stand by. I want to give the Zalroth one chance to retreat. You are going to negotiate? Vemoth asked, surprised. No. I am going to give them a warning. It is the civilized thing to do. And it is what you would want us to do. But I already know they will refuse. Karen opened a communication channel. Her message broadcast across all frequencies, aimed directly at the Zalroth fleet. Zalroth fleet, this is Fleet Admiral Karen Price of the Human Defense Initiative. You have invaded council space and committed acts of war against protected civilizations. You are ordered to withdraw immediately and return to your territory beyond the barrier. If you do not comply, you will face the full military response of humanity. This is your only warning. The council chamber was silent. Everyone waited for the response. It came quickly. The Zalroth leader's voice was harsh and guttural. The translator struggled to convey the contempt in his words. Weak prey that hides behind others. We do not negotiate. We do not retreat. We take what we want. Your council is ours now. Come and die if you wish. Karen's expression did not change. Understood. Admiral Price out. She turned to her command staff. Send the signal. All ships engage. Execute battle plan Delta 7. Authorization code Price Alpha 7. Paul nodded and began entering commands into his handheld device. Throughout the human fleet, thousands of ships received their orders. Weapons came online, shields activated, engines powered up for combat speed. "What is Battle Plan Delta 7? Lisa asked. Jake answered. "It is a formation we developed for fighting overwhelming numbers. We call it the Hammer and Anvil. Part of our fleet holds position and acts as the anvil. The enemy crashes against it. Then the hammer comes from behind and crushes." The battle began with silence. In space there is no sound. No roar of engines. No blast of weapons. Just light and energy and death. From the Council observation station, thousands of aliens watched their screens in terror and fascination. They had never seen anything like this. Their species did not fight wars. They had peacekeepers, yes, but not warriors. Not like this. The human fleet moved like a single living organism. Every ship knew exactly where to be and when. Fighter craft deployed in perfect formations. Thousands of small ships creating a defensive screen. Behind them, the larger vessels held position, weapons tracking targets with mechanical precision. The Zalroth came at them like a tidal wave. 3,000 warships, each one bristling with weapons. They fired first. Energy beams cut through space. Plasma bolts exploded against human shields. Missiles streaked toward their targets. The human fighters took the brunt of the first assault. Hundreds of them died in seconds, consumed by fire and energy. But the rest adapted instantly. They scattered, reformed, and began their counterattack. On the bridge of the command ship Indomitable, Admiral Karen Price watched the tactical display with cold calculation. She had fought battles before, real battles back when Earth's nations still fought each other. She understood warfare in a way that no Council species could. "Enemy formation is committing to the central approach," Paul Jenkins reported. "They are concentrating firepower on our defensive line." "Good. That is exactly what we want. Let them think they are winning. Order the Anvil group to hold position and absorb the attack. Deploy countermeasures and electronic warfare." "Yes, Admiral." Throughout the human fleet, specialized ships activated their systems. Jamming signals flooded the battlefield. False targets appeared on Zalroth sensors, communication channels filled with static and interference. The Zalroth found their carefully coordinated attack becoming chaotic and confused. "They are adapting," Paul observed. "Switching to visual targeting. Expected. Now deploy the kinetic strike platforms." The order went out. Hidden among the larger human vessels were specialized weapons platforms. They looked small and harmless compared to the massive warships, but appearances were deceiving. Each platform carried a single weapon. A tungsten rod 20 feet long and 3 feet wide. Solid metal, shaped for aerodynamics even though there was no air in space. The platforms used magnetic accelerators to launch these rods at incredible speeds, a fraction of light speed. At those velocities, even a simple metal rod became a devastating weapon. "Kinetic platforms launching," Paul reported. "Time to impact 30 seconds. The Zalroth sensors detected the incoming projectiles. But their computers could not understand what they were seeing. Simple metal rods, no explosives, no energy weapons, just metal. Their defensive systems marked them as low-priority threats. They learned their mistake too late. The first rod hit a Zalroth heavy carrier at 0.02% of light speed. The impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear explosion. The carrier's shields held for exactly 0.3 seconds. Then they collapsed. The rod punched through the hull, through 3 decks of armor, through the reactor core and out the other side. The reactor exploded. The carrier disintegrated. Secondary explosions rippled through nearby ships. 15 more rods found their targets. 15 more Zalroth ships died. The tightly packed formation that had seemed so strong became a liability. When ships exploded, the debris damaged their neighbors. When reactors overloaded, the energy waves disrupted nearby systems. Supreme Hunter Zarthax watched his fleet take casualties and felt something he had not experienced in decades. Doubt. "What weapons are those?" he demanded. His weapons officer checked the data again. They appeared to be simple kinetic projectiles. Metal rods accelerated to extreme velocity. "That is primitive technology. Why are they so effective?" "The humans are using physics itself as a weapon. At those speeds, the rods carry immense kinetic energy. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving at relativistic speeds," Zarthax snarled. "Clever prey. Adjust shields for kinetic defense." All ships break formation and engage individually. Hunt them down. The Zalroth fleet began to scatter, exactly as Karen had predicted. Enemy is breaking formation, Paul reported. They are attempting to surround us. Excellent. Execute Phase 2. Bring in the hammer. Hidden in the dark spaces around the battlefield, another human fleet had been waiting. 15,000 ships, engines cold, weapons silent. Invisible to Zalroth sensors. They had been there the entire time, patient and motionless. Now they came to life. Engines ignited. Weapons charged, and they fell upon the Zalroth rear like wolves on a wounded elk. The Zalroth found themselves caught between two forces. The anvil in front, which had seemed like easy prey, was actually a fortress. Behind them, the hammer struck with brutal efficiency. They were surrounded, outnumbered, and for the first time in their long history of conquest, outmatched. They are panicking, Paul said, studying his displays. Zalroth ships are attempting to retreat. Do not let them. Order all Wolfpack squadrons to pursue. Target their engines first. I want them crippled and helpless, then destroyed. The Wolfpacks were smaller groups of human destroyers and frigates. Each pack worked together with perfect coordination. They hunted the fleeing Zalroth ships like their namesakes. 3 or 4 human ships would surround a single Zalroth vessel, disable its engines, then tear it apart. From the observation station, Quirisher watched in horror. They are not just defeating them, they are hunting them. Jake stood beside the Valorian. His expression was grim. Yes, this is what humans do when we stop pretending to be civilized. This is what we are underneath the diplomatic smiles and careful words. We are apex predators. And right now the Zalroth are learning what that means, and this is terrifying. Yes, it is. This is why we tried so hard to be peaceful. This is why we hid this side of ourselves. Because we know what we are capable of. We know what happens when we stop holding back. Lisa joined them. She looked pale but determined. The council species need to see this. They need to understand what they invited into their space. They already understand, Jake said quietly. Look at them. Throughout the observation deck, council members watched the battle with expressions of shock and fear. Some had retreated to the back of the room. Others could not look away despite their terror. The battle raged for hours. The Zalroth fought hard. They were experienced warriors and did not give up easily. But they were fighting something they had never encountered before. Another predator species, one that had spent thousands of years learning how to work together. How to coordinate. How to turn individual strength into collective power. Humans had conquered their entire planet, not because they were the strongest or fastest, but because they were smart, because they planned, because they never gave up. The Zalroth had strength and aggression, but humans had strategy and persistence, and in the end that made all the difference. Enemy fleet is breaking, Paul reported. Approximately 200 ships are attempting to retreat through the corridor. The rest are destroyed or crippled. Let them go, Karen ordered. Let them run back to their empire. Let them tell their leaders what happened here. Make sure they understand that council space is protected now. Yes, Admiral. The surviving Zalroth ships fled. They scattered in all directions, desperate to escape. Their mighty invasion fleet had been shattered. Of 3,000 warships, fewer than 200 survived. They broadcast emergency messages back to their empire, messages of warning and fear. Do not attack council space. The humans are there. They are worse than us. Karen surveyed the battlefield. Debris from destroyed ships floated everywhere. The beautiful corridor of stars was now littered with wreckage. And human ships moved through it all, searching for survivors and ensuring no Zalroth vessels remained. Casualty report, she ordered. Paul checked his data. We lost 900 vessels. Approximately 45,000 personnel dead or missing. Another 300 ships damaged but repairable. 900 ships. 45,000 people. A significant loss by human standards. But compared to the 15 billion council citizens the Zalroth had killed, it seemed small. Mark their names, Karen said quietly. Every single one. They died protecting people they had never met. Species they barely knew. That is worth remembering. Yes, Admiral. Karen opened a communication channel to the council station. Arch-Counselor Vemeth, this is Admiral Price. The Zalroth fleet has been neutralized. Council space is secure. We are beginning cleanup operations and establishing a defensive perimeter around the barrier breach. Vemeth's voice came through, shaky but relieved. Admiral, the Council is grateful beyond words. You have saved us from certain destruction. Just doing what needed to be done. But we need to talk. About what happens next. About what you saw today. I understand. Come to the council chamber when you are ready. We will be waiting. Karen turned to her command staff. Paul, you have the bridge. Begin fleet reorganization. I want a full defensive line established within 24 hours. Nobody else is coming through that barrier. Understood, Admiral. Karen took a shuttle to the council station. When she arrived at the chamber, thousands of aliens were already there, all of them staring at her with a mixture of gratitude and fear. She walked to the center of the room in her combat-stained uniform. The council chamber remained silent for what felt like forever. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species all processing what they had witnessed. Some were grateful. Some were terrified. All were uncertain about the future. Arch-Counselor Vemoth finally spoke. His ancient voice carried through the chamber with careful deliberation. Admiral Price, the Council has observed your capabilities. We have seen what humanity becomes when forced into combat. This revelation has caused great concern among many species. Karen stood motionless, waiting for the verdict. However, Vemoth continued, we have also observed something else. You gave the Zalroth a warning. You offered them a chance to retreat. Even in battle, you followed rules of engagement. You did not attack council vessels or civilian targets. You fought with precision and discipline, not mindless rage. That is correct, Karen confirmed. Humans learned long ago that warfare without rules becomes genocide. We have codes of conduct, laws of war. Even when we fight, we try to minimize unnecessary suffering. Quirishar stepped forward. His crystalline body still seemed dimmer than usual, but his voice was steady. Captain Morrison told us that humanity achieved peace among themselves, that you stopped fighting each other. Is this true? Jake answered. Yes, we had our last major war 50 years ago. Since then, Earth has been united. We still have disagreements, but we settle them through discussion and compromise, not violence. Then you are not simply mindless predators. No, we are predators who chose to be civilized. That choice is what defines us. Another council member spoke, a Helian representative, one of the rabbit-like beings who usually avoided any kind of conflict. But you built all those weapons while pretending to be peaceful. How can we trust you? Lisa responded this time. We never pretended. We were peaceful. We are peaceful. The weapons were insurance, a backup plan. We hoped we would never need them. But Earth's history taught us that hope is not enough. You have to be prepared. Prepared for what? To conquer us. No, prepared to defend ourselves. And as it turned out, prepared to defend you too. The debate continued for hours. Some species argued that humanity should be expelled from the council, that they were too dangerous to be trusted. Others argued that humanity had just saved billions of lives, that rejecting them now would be both ungrateful and foolish. Finally, Vemoth called for silence. The council must make a decision, but this decision will affect the future of our entire civilization. We will take time to deliberate properly. 3 days, then we will vote. Karen nodded. Understood. My fleet will maintain defensive positions during that time. We will not interfere with your deliberations. For 3 days, humans waited. The fleet remained in formation around the barrier breach, ensuring no more Zalroth vessels could enter council space. Engineers worked on repairing damaged ships. Medical teams treated the wounded, and everyone wondered what the council would decide. Jake spent much of that time with Quirishar. The Valorian had been humanity's first friend in the galaxy, their strongest supporter, but now he seemed troubled. You feel betrayed, Jake said. It was not a question. I feel confused, Quirishar replied. I believed humans when you said you were peaceful. I argued for your inclusion in the council. I vouched for you. We were telling the truth. We are peaceful. We want to be peaceful. But you built an armada, 60,000 ships. In secret, not in secret, just out of sight. And we built them because Earth's history taught us a hard lesson. Peace only lasts when both sides choose it. If one side chooses violence, the other side better be ready. Quirishar turned to face Jake directly. Do you know what scares me most? Not that you have weapons. Not that you can fight. What scares me is how good you are at it. You destroyed the Zalroth fleet in hours. The Zalroth who have been conquering their region of space for millennia. You made it look easy. It was not easy. We lost 45,000 people. But you won. Decisively, completely. You were not afraid of them. You hunted them. Yes, because that is what we are, hunters, predators, we evolved that way. But we are also more than that. We are builders, dreamers, artists, scientists. We contain multitudes, Querishar. The capacity for violence and the capacity for compassion both exist in us simultaneously. How do you live with that contradiction? By choosing. Every day. Every moment. We choose which side to follow. Usually we choose compassion. But when something like the Zalroth appears, we choose violence. Because sometimes violence is the only thing that works. Lisa joined them in the observation deck. She had been talking with other council members, trying to calm their fears. How are they reacting? Jake asked. Mixed. The prey species are terrified. They have never seen anything like us. The few predator species in the council are less scared but more wary. They recognize what we are. And what are we? Competition. Most predator species in the council evolved to hunt alone. They learn to cooperate with their own kind, but not with others. Humans are different. We evolved to hunt in packs, to coordinate, to work with anyone who shares our goals. That makes us more dangerous than a lone hunter. Querishar made a sound like breaking glass, his species equivalent of a laugh. You make yourselves sound like monsters. Maybe we are, Jake said quietly. Maybe every species that survives a death world becomes a kind of monster. But we are monsters who chose to use our power to protect instead of destroy. That has to count for something. On the third day, the council reconvened. Every seat was filled. Every species wanted to be present for this decision. The future of the galactic community hung in the balance. Arch-Counselor Vamoth addressed the chamber. The council has deliberated. We have discussed humanity's place among us. We have weighed their actions against their words. We have considered both the threat they pose and the protection they offer. Karen stood with her command staff. Jake and his team waited nearby, all of them prepared for rejection, for exile, for a return to isolation. Therefore, Vamoth announced, the council has reached a decision. We will not only maintain humanity's membership, but we will expand it. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. We are offering Earth a permanent seat on the Security Council, and we are formally requesting that humanity assume responsibility for the Council's military defense. Jake could not hide his surprise. You are promoting us? We are recognizing reality, Vamoth said simply. The Council has existed in peace for millennia because we had no serious enemies. The Zalroth have proven that our era of safety is over. We need protectors who understand warfare, who can build defenses, who can think like predators. Another council member added, many of us fear humanity. That fear is honest and reasonable. But we fear the Zalroth more. We fear what else might be lurking beyond the barriers. We need someone who can fight those threats. You are asking us to be your military, Karen said carefully. Yes. We are asking you to maintain peace so that the rest of us can pursue the civilization we have built. We are asking you to stand watch in the dark so that our light can continue burning. That is a heavy responsibility. It is. But you have already shown you can handle it. You fought with discipline. You showed mercy when possible. You did not become the monsters you feared. Jake spoke up. The council should understand what they are asking. If humans become your military arm, you need to trust us. Completely. In combat situations, we cannot wait for committee decisions. We need authority to act quickly. We understand, Vamoth confirmed. That is why we are offering you a Security Council seat. You will have input on all major decisions, but in military matters we will defer to human judgment. And after? Lisa asked. After the immediate threats are dealt with. What then? Then humanity continues as both members and protectors. We hope that eventually we can teach you more peaceful ways, and perhaps you can teach us how to be strong when we need to be. Querishar stepped forward one more time. I want to say something. Many of you are afraid of humans. I was too after seeing what they can do. But I have spent 3 years with them. I have talked with Jake and his team. I have learned about Earth and its history. He turned to address the entire chamber. Humans are not just warriors. They are also philosophers, artists, scientists. They have created beautiful things. They have struggled with the same questions we all face. How to live together. How to build a better future. They chose peace not because they are weak, but because they understood its value. The Zalroth are pure predators. They know only conquest. But humans are something different. They are predators who learn to be more. That is why they are so dangerous. And that is why they are so valuable. The chamber fell silent again. Then slowly, beings began to make gestures of agreement. The council's approval spread through the room like a wave. Karen stepped forward. On behalf of humanity, we accept this responsibility. We will serve as the shield of the council. We will defend your territory and your people. But you must remember what you saw. Remember what we are when the mask comes off. Respect that. Fear it a little, because that healthy fear will help you remember never to give us a reason to turn on you. Agreed, Femeth said solemnly. Let it be recorded. Humanity has accepted the role of shield of the council. May they guard us well, and may we never forget the price of our peace. 3 months passed. The human military integrated fully.